Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to AnTalk, the weekly comic conversation. Death Note is a new movie on Netflix directed by Adam Wingard. He's known for movies like You're Next and 2016's Blair Witch film, and he's also the guy they've chosen to direct Godzilla vs. King Kong, coming out in a couple years. And here he took on the task of adapting a very popular manga and anime series known as Death Note. The movie and the anime at their base have the same plot and characters. A teenage boy slash young adult by the name of Light randomly finds a notebook titled The Death Note that has the power to kill anyone whose name is written in it, and how he decides to try and use the Death Note and essentially the power of a god to start killing off the worst criminals around the world and eventually shape his idea of a perfect world, creating this godlike entity known to the public as Kira. Yeah, I know. Interesting concept, right? Well, the anime, like a lot of other people, is one of my favorite of all time. And only a handful of stories across any medium have captivated me like Death Note. So, I'm a huge fan of Death Note, and hearing that a live-action adaptation was being made, I was actually pretty optimistic, in hopes that this could be awesome. Even though a lot of people thought this would be a bad idea based on the recent track record for other live-action adaptations of anime, but I thought if done right, the psychological warfare between the main characters that makes the anime so great could be captured and translated and make a great movie. Even though it is an entire series and cramming it into an hour and 40-minute movie had me a little nervous, but I hope for the best. So what did I think? Is this live action adaptation of Death Note any good? Not really. And I think it comes down to my biggest fear, and that it was too much to cram into such a short movie. It felt really rushed, especially even some of the best aspects, and the story and the characters just didn't feel that fleshed out. Now before we go any further into this review, I just want to say that I am not one of the few judging this based on it being whitewashed. And it should have been an all-Japanese cast, and it should have been this way or that way. Look, this is an adaptation made by an American filmmaker for an American audience. So it is adapted as such, and I think that's okay. You still have the anime, the manga, and if you really want to watch a Japanese version, that exists also. But this is an adaptation based on, influenced by, and it's definitely not whitewashed. It's an American version of this story, and I'm going to judge it as such. Now don't get me wrong, I'm all about diversity in Hollywood and do think that there is somewhat of an issue, but in cases like this, you have to take the film as it is. And that should also be applied to examining this interpretation of the anime and separating it from the movie itself. If it's not perfect and note for note, that's okay. Just like adapting comic books, if it captures the spirit and core essence of the source material and is ultimately a good film by standalone standards, then that's all you can ask for. And I can't lie and say that my love for the anime didn't make me a little biased while watching this, judging it from a different light than someone who isn't into anime and checks it out on Netflix because it looks cool. And like in my review for Ghost in the Shell, I mentioned that I'm indecisive but still kind of like that movie, and it understood and captured the world of its source material. So I think it was a decent adaptation on a surface level, but it just failed to hit the point at the end or be enough of its own thing to be a really good movie. But the Death Note movie, I had a lot more trouble trying not to compare it too close to the anime. But I think that's because it took the plot, characters, and even the same storyline for the most part, but either rushed through or ignored the aspects that make the anime great. And you could say Ghost in the Shell did the same thing, but I don't know, I just feel differently about this, so shoot me. Now, I don't want to talk forever and ever about this because I probably could and try to go into every little detail, but I'm not going to do that here. I just want to warn you that even though I'm not going to go heavy into spoilers, I am going to loosely talk about the plot and some of the things that happen without getting too detailed. Just be aware and cautious if you don't want anything ruined for Death Note. This is not a short anime series, and a lot happens, and there's a lot of stuff that you could cut out, especially with making a movie, and you can make it more confined, which it did cut out a lot of stuff I figured they would, and that's okay. I actually think it was the right move to focus on the main story, but even so, it's a lot to fit in, and the movie, when watching it, it just feels rushed. And that's not just knowing the source material. I feel like anyone watching would feel that way too. The movie doesn't really build up or escalate, at least in my opinion, because scenes you think would be big moments are just kind of brushed through, and characters don't really get a chance to be fleshed out at all. This movie is about a lot of people dying and there's a lot at stake, but the way people kind of react to a lot of this heavy stuff is kind of inhuman. And I wanted to know more about the motivations of Light and his girlfriend Mia. You learn early on that Light's mother was killed and the guy responsible was never brought to justice. So I understand why he would be tempted to kill him, but to keep going further and further with it, he never questions if what he's doing is right and barely has any response to the first death he causes. So he's either just a psychopath or he's just not written that well. Especially his girlfriend Mia, who was totally okay with all of this from the beginning. And he's even worse than he is. I have no idea what her motivations are or why she even likes Light in the first place. She clearly shows some kind of interest in him before she even realizes he has the Death Note, which she becomes far more obsessed with than he is. In the anime, Misa, who Mia is based on, is in love with Kira, or the idea of Kira, before she ever meets him face to face, and that actually makes sense in the context of her character. And I don't want to constantly compare this movie to the anime. I want to judge it based on its own merits. But the movie insists on committing to the characters from the anime halfway. So it's hard not to compare them to their anime counterparts when they take half of who that character is and leave out or drastically change the core elements that make them great. Light is supposed to be a very gifted teenager to the point of being a genius. The anime doesn't really go deep into his motivations either, but you get that he's a brilliant person who is kind of just on a different level mentally and is displayed as a very sociopathic person without ever outright saying it. He's very manipulative, doesn't develop emotions or affection for people, and has no problem pretending to, and he has no remorse for killing those who get in his way. He is also very self-righteous, and he believes in his mission, and eventually you see it consume him to the point of no return. In the movie, they just say he's smart, without him actually ever doing anything that's all that bright. In this, he's more portrayed as someone who's just kind of getting the short end of the stick. And he makes dumb decisions like telling the girl he wants to impress that he has a notebook that kills people and tells her right away that he's responsible for the death of the kid who died recently at their school. He's lucky she's crazier than he is. So he really doesn't do anything smart. Other characters just say he's bright. He doesn't do anything that wouldn't be obviously easy to come up with if you had the Death Note and nobody knew about it. And in my opinion, his plan towards the end of the movie is so very convoluted and pointless, and I think there's actually a very big plot hole. L, who is actually one of the best and my favorite characters of the anime, and is Light's very worthy adversary throughout most of the series, is supposedly the greatest detective in the world with the best deductive skills on Earth, who catches on to the real identity of Kira against astronomical odds. He's actually portrayed pretty well for the first half of the movie. I thought that the actor Keith Stanfield actually captured the weird and awkward mannerisms pretty well, and I thought the movie improved with him, and I was excited for what he was bringing to the film, but as the movie went on, that all kind of fell apart. Like I said, he's one of my favorite characters in the anime. He's a totally socially awkward person, but like Light, he's pretty much a genius. And even though he's weird, he is always composed, and his mind is always working and solving. He also takes pride in what he does and would never stoop to the level of cheating or going against his principles to win. But in the movie, L starts to fall apart emotionally and starts to react impulsively and contemplates abandoning his principles to get over on Light. And again, the motivations I just don't get. Who I did like was Shea Wiggum as Light's dad, who plays a cop, a detective, who actually gets assigned to tracking down Kira. So that's pretty interesting. It's similar to the anime, and I thought he did a good job with his role, and there was nothing to really dislike about him either. And I think Willem Dafoe is the perfect choice for Ryuk, the Shinigami / God of Death. Ryuk is one of the best characters in the anime, and Dafoe plays the part so well. The effects are okay, not always great, and could have been done better in some scenes, but I did like him. His character is a little different and gets involved more here, as to where in the anime he really liked to just sit back and observe for his own amusement, but the change really didn't bother me. But all in all, the movie, by the end, it tries to replicate the anime so hard, yet abandons and betrays it at the same time, for the worse, not the better. It makes me wonder why the hell they even made this. By far the best thing about the anime is the battle of wit and intelligence between Light and L, both of whom face multiple impossible situations and yet still find a way to constantly one-up the other throughout the series. That, with an intriguing concept and great characters, makes for a great anime that keeps the anticipation and tone up for so long it's unreal. It can have you at the edge of your seat almost the entire time. And it's like the writers of this movie are aware of what the anime is and what it's about, but have no idea what made it great. So I don't get why they made some of these decisions, and trust me, it's hard not to be biased of this, but why would you make Death Note something so awesome and then either rush through, completely ignore, or start to develop and then abandon the best things about it? The beats of the movie happen so quick, it's like someone's going through a checklist, and that's because there's so much to cram in so little time. This would have been better off a series, or even a 2-hour movie could have fleshed out a lot more. The characters are weak because they aren't fleshed out, and they are half committed to who they are in the anime, and I really didn't care for the ending, if you want to call it an ending. It felt like you had a whole nother act to go, and it just kind of ends with no wrap-up. I think they wanted to come off like it's some kind of cliffhanger, but honestly, I just don't think they knew how to end it. And like I said, I think there's a huge plot hole, and if I'm wrong and it's not a plot hole, then the rules of the Death Note were really contrived to fit the ending they wanted. In the end, Death Note is not a great movie, but I can't pretend that it's all bad. It does capture the concept of the Death Note pretty well, and at least it will bring the whole idea to a large American audience and maybe even bring some attention to the anime. So that's a good thing. I thought performances across the board were decent to good. Like I said, I really liked Ryuk for the most part. I thought L was good for half of the movie. I wish they could have stuck with it. And some scenes really do stand out as good scenes. And even though it wasn't written all that well, I can't say there was any point where I wanted to turn it off or throw my TV out the window. It was at least watchable, and I wouldn't be mad if someone, a fan of the anime or not, said they liked it. I would be able to see where they are coming from. So overall, this is not a great film, no matter who you are. You've heard why I think so. The fact that it's not a long movie at least might make it worth checking out and judging it for yourself. I would love to hear the opinions of those who are not familiar with the anime. Did you have a different takeaway than I did? Like I said, I really do try to judge this based on the fact that it's an adaptation, and in no way has to copy the anime beat for beat, as long as it's a good movie. But honestly, I don't think that it's a good movie, and the fact that it ignores or abandons the best part of the anime really does not help. It's also not the worst thing I've ever seen, not even close. I guess you could say more than anything, I'm just disappointed with it. But if you had a good time with it, then I'm glad. And let me know what you thought in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and follow me on Twitter. This is AnTalk, the weekly comic conversation. Thanks for watching and take care. Hey guys, did you like this video? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of my videos, click right here on this icon to become a subscriber. And if you are a subscriber, don't forget to ring that bell so you can stay updated with all my videos. And if you want to see another video just like this one, click right here. And as always, thanks for watching AnTalk, the weekly comic conversation.